Hello. My wife destroyed our marriage and my life. My name is Tom Bailey, and I want to share with you everything that happened. My wife, Carol Martin, was a well-known evening news anchor on one of Birmingham's leading TV channels. She was not only smart, but incredibly beautiful, and many believed that her next job could be in a big city like Atlanta or Chicago. There were even rumors of an offer from New York VDJ, the pinnacle for news anchors. We met at the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa. Carol studied broadcasting, and I studied marketing. We met at a fraternity party in our freshman year, and I was instantly charmed. She was tall, blonde, and stunningly beautiful. I was outgoing, but neither an athlete nor a model. Despite this, we hit it off and became a couple. We had our ups and downs, even broke up for 2 weeks, but I missed her so much that I ran to her dorm just to see her running towards me. It was a movie-like moment, and we promised never to part again. By our senior year, we were engaged and living together off campus, but decided to wait until after graduation to get married. She wanted a big wedding, and her family could afford it. We got married in the Canterbury Chapel a week after graduation. Carol got a job as a weekend weather forecaster in Huntsville VDJ, not prestigious, but a start. I took a low-paying job at a local ad agency to gain experience. Carol's career quickly took off. Within a year, she was offered a reporter position at the largest station in Mobile. We moved to the Gulf Coast, where I found a job at a major advertising firm. Carol thrived, becoming the weekend news anchor, and eventually the co-anchor of the evening news. When Carol announced her pregnancy, her popularity soared even more, and the birth of our daughter Susan became a local event. The station even made a documentary series about her experience as a new mother returning to work, which won a regional Emmy. Her success led to an offer to co-anchor from Birmingham's leading station, WSYY. We left our beloved Mobile for Birmingham, knowing it could lead to even greater opportunities. Birmingham, with its population of 1.2 million and significant media market, was a major step up for Carol's career. I was cautious about moving to Birmingham after we had settled so comfortably in Mobile, but it turned out there was nothing to worry about. Thanks to recommendations from my friends in Mobile and help from the station in Birmingham, I found a great job at the city's largest advertising agency. The station's management was fantastic. They connected us with an experienced real estate agent who found us a wonderful home in Hoover and an excellent daycare for our little Susan. The move went smoothly, and we quickly adapted to our new life. Our daily routines changed significantly because being married to a TV anchor is a unique experience. I wake up, make breakfast, and go to work, leaving Carol and Susan sleeping. Carol wakes up with Susan and spends the morning with her. In the afternoon, she takes Susan to Mrs. Olup's, a kind woman who looks after Susan and a few other kids, introducing them to concepts they will encounter in kindergarten. I pick up Susan after work, make dinner, and bathe her before reading to her and putting her to bed. Then I relax until Carol comes home, often waking me up on the couch. Carol's schedule is very demanding. She arrives at the station at 3 p.m. to prepare for the evening news, goes on air at 6 p.m. and again at 10 p.m. Recently, the news director, Don Sanchez, started holding post-mortem meetings after the late broadcast, making her stay even longer. Competition for ratings is fierce, and stations are constantly striving to increase their audience share. As an advertising professional, I understand the focus on ratings, but as a husband, I miss the time spent alone with Carol. We both work long hours and often feel more like neighbors than spouses. Although we try to spend weekends together, it's challenging, especially with Carol's increasing number of public appearances. Our schedules rarely align, making it difficult to discuss our situation, and Carol seems reluctant to talk about it because there are no simple answers. When we got married, we discussed these challenges, and I agreed to everything. Moreover, many of our friends face similar problems with demanding jobs. I try to be supportive because I knew what I was getting into, and Carol's income significantly eases our lives, although money isn't everything. Eventually, I couldn't contain my frustration. One day over lunch, I opened up to Lou Faraday, the media director at our agency. Lou, married with a daughter a bit older than Susan, became my best friend at work. When he talked about how happy he was with his family, I blurted out, "Damn, I wish I had what you have." "Sounds like trouble in paradise, buddy," Lou said. "What's going on?" I poured out my heart, surprised at how bad I felt. "I'm married to one of the best women on TV," I muttered, "but I see her as often as her fans." Lou shook his head sympathetically. That sucks, Tom. Can't you take a vacation or a long weekend? Your parents would love to watch Susan. I've thought about it, I replied. But Carol says Don Sanchez insists on maintaining ratings. He's afraid that their absence will lead to a drop they can't recover from. Listen, Lou said. I know Don Sanchez. He's ambitious but also decent. Maybe you should talk to him and see if he can help you and Carol spend some time together. I don't know, Lou, I sighed. Carol will kill me if she finds out I talked to her boss. She doesn't have to know, Lou said. Don is coming to our presentation tomorrow. You can catch him afterwards. I don't want to mix personal matters with work, I said. Don't be silly. It's just a preliminary meeting. It's a great opportunity to talk to him. That evening, Carol arrived even later than usual. She didn't wake me on the couch where I had dozed off. I woke up in the middle of the night, dragged myself to bed next to her, and thought I wouldn't even be able to kiss her goodnight. Deciding to change our pattern, I watched the conference room the next day. When their meeting ended, I waved to Don. He was in a good mood. Hey, Tom, how's the husband of my favorite news anchor? He shouted. Hi, Don. Do you have a couple of minutes? I asked. Sure. What's on your mind? He asked cheerfully. You need to give Carol a break. You're working her too hard, I said, frowning. He looked worried. Has she complained? No, she loves it, I replied. I'm the one suffering. I don't see her anymore. He relaxed and joked. You knew she had a demanding job when you married her. That's true, I agreed. But all these appearances and post-mortem meetings cut into our time together. Okay, he said. We probably overdid it. I'll see if we can ease her schedule. And don't worry about the post-mortem meetings. We haven't held one since the last ratings came out. Have you seen how far ahead we are of the competition? Management is thrilled. I need to get to my next meeting. Please, your bride. With that, he patted me on the back and left. Back at my desk, I checked the ratings and saw that the last set was published a month ago. If Don hadn't held a post-mortem meeting in a month, what had Carol been doing when she came home so late? This thought shook me. I thought she was cheating, but quickly dismissed it. Carol loved me and wouldn't jeopardize our marriage. There were many reasons why she might be late, such as sorting fan mail or relaxing, but these reasons didn't comfort me. At that moment, Lou peeked in on me. Hey, I saw you talking to Don. Did he give you any relief? I'm not sure, Lou. I guess I won't know until I talk to Carol. He looked puzzled, but when I didn't say anything more, he turned to leave. All right, buddy. Let me know if there's anything I can do. The rest of the day I was like a zombie. I did my work, but my mind was elsewhere. I kept thinking about what Don said and what Carol told me about her late hours. I thought about confronting her, but was afraid of looking foolish if the explanation was innocent. Accusing her of cheating wouldn't help our relationship, but avoiding the topic seemed like weakness. By the time I left work to pick up Susan, I hadn't decided anything. Fortunately, my 4-year-old daughter distracted me in the evening. She was unusually clingy, sensing my mood, and didn't want me to stop reading to her when she finally fell asleep. I felt tears welling up, thinking how sad it would be if her parents divorced. Emotionally drained, I watched TV but couldn't focus until the news started. Watching Carol, I remembered how much I loved her and convinced myself she wouldn't cheat. It was after midnight when Carol came home. Oh, I didn't think you'd still be up, she said, surprised. I hugged her. I just wanted to see you. You're very late tonight. She quickly kissed me and took off her shoes. Yes, sorry, Don kept us late again with one of his post-mortem meetings, she said, heading to the bedroom. As she climbed the stairs, I realized she had lied. Don said he hadn't held a meeting in a month. I didn't want to believe she was cheating, but I also didn't want to ignore the truth. The next day, I asked Lou to have lunch with me. He sensed my seriousness and agreed. We drove to a restaurant far from the office in complete silence. When we ordered, I hesitated, but Lou said, "It's Carol, isn't it?" His words opened the floodgates and I poured out my fears and uncertainties. Lou was silent, listening to me. Damn, I thought you and Carol had the happiest marriage, he said. So did I replied sadly. So what are you going to do? He asked. His question helped me clear my thoughts. Lou, I need to go to the station and see for myself. If I'm wrong and everything is innocent, I'll quietly leave, and Carol will never know. But if I'm right, and what if you're right? Lou asked quietly. I don't know, but at least I'll know the truth. That's better than this agony. What about Susan? He asked. I've already thought about that, I replied. When we get back, I'll call Mrs. Ollips and ask her to sit with Susan until late. She offered before, so it should be fine. We finished lunch and returned to the office. Although I was still depressed, I felt some relief from having a plan. Even those going to the gallows feel some relief when the day comes. Mrs. Ollips agreed, but asked me to be back by 11 p.m. I have work in the morning, she said. It wasn't much time, but it was the best I could get, so I promised. After work, I told Susan about the changes. She cried at first, but cheered up when Mrs. Ollips mentioned a pizza party. I paid for the extra time and pizza, then left before Susan could get upset again. I went home, made dinner but couldn't eat. Cleaning up, I tried to distract myself, but doubts grew. The news ended at 10:30 p.m. What if Carol went straight home? What would I say? These fears paralyzed me until I remembered my resolve at lunch. I had to do something. By 10 p.m., I decided to go to the station. There shouldn't be many people. An engineer, 2 cameramen, and a sound engineer. Hopefully they wouldn't notice me. When I arrived, I realized my mistake. The night guard, Joe, was there. He knew me, so getting in wasn't a problem, but I had to sign in. So much for secrecy. "Good evening, Mr. Bailey," Joe said. "Came to watch the news?" "Yes," I replied, signing the log. Joe looked at me sympathetically. "There won't be any trouble, right?" "No, of course not," I quickly answered, heading to the studio. What did he mean? Did he know something? I peeked through the dark curtains. The news had just ended, and Carol was heading to the makeup room instead of her dressing room. The makeup room was dark, usually used for guests who never appear at 10 p.m. When Carol opened the door, the light inside revealed a male figure. The door closed, and I was left outside with a pounding heart. I could barge in, but if it was innocent, Carol would never forgive me. If I stayed outside, I would never know. I remembered the small observation window Carol had shown me. I went there, checking the time. It was already 10:45 p.m., and I had to pick up Susan soon. I peeked through the window and saw Carol in a passionate embrace with a man. I recorded the video on my phone, the light highlighting the black lingerie on her skin. I wanted to end it all, but seeing the time, realized I had to pick up Susan. I rushed to the lobby, nodded to Joe, and ran out the door. "Sorry, Mr. Bailey," Joe said. "Damn it," I thought. "Does everyone know what's going on except me?" I jumped in the car and sped to Mrs. Ollips' house. She let me in, and I found Susan asleep. Wrapping her in a blanket, I picked her up and thanked Mrs. Ollips for watching her. She looked at me strangely and asked, "Is everything all right, Mr. Bailey?" Only then did I realize I had tears streaming down my face. "Oh, nothing, just something in my eye," I said. I thanked her again, took Susan to the car, and drove home. Susan slept while I carried her upstairs and tucked her into bed. She looked so sweet and innocent, and I longed for the innocence I'd lost that night. I grabbed a beer from the fridge and sat in the dark, waiting. Everything was quiet, and a memory flashed in my mind of the moment when my grandmother died, the silence amplified by my sadness. When Carol came home around 1 a.m., she turned on the kitchen light and saw me sitting there. "Tom, what are you doing?" she asked, surprised. "I was waiting for you," I replied calmly. "The security guard said you came to the station. Is everything all right with Susan?" "Where is she?" Carol asked. "Mrs. Ollips watched her. She's asleep upstairs," I replied. "Well, if you were at the station, why didn't you come to my office?" she asked, her voice full of confusion. I gathered my thoughts. "I saw you tonight. I saw you go into the makeup room with Ted Stevenson," I said, my voice trembling slightly. "Oh, we just had a meeting after the news," she replied nonchalantly. "Carol, I looked through the observation window. I saw what your meeting was about. I even saw your new lingerie," I said, watching her reaction. "Oh, Tom, I'm so sorry," she said quietly. "Are you sorry for what you did or for getting caught?" I asked, my frustration growing. "I'm sorry you found out this way," she said quietly, avoiding my gaze. "You're going to leave me for him, aren't you?" I asked, feeling a lump in my throat. She sank to her knees and took my hands. "No, dear, I'm not leaving you. It's just an affair. Maybe it will end soon, and everything will go back to normal," she said, shocking me with her words. "You're not going to stop? You're going to keep cheating on me?" I asked, bewildered. "It means nothing. Just let me have my fun and I'll come back to you," she said in a tone that confused me even more. "I can't believe you're saying this. You expect me to tolerate your cheating?" I shouted, unable to contain my anger. She stood up and looked at me coldly. Tom, you have no choice, she said firmly. I'm your husband. If you don't stop, I'll file for divorce, I threatened, hoping to make her realize the seriousness of the situation. She looked at me with a cold, calculating expression. I don't think that's in your best interest, Tom. You'll lose custody of Susan and most of our assets. The court doesn't care about infidelity. They only consider Susan's well-being, and I'll get custody. You'll see her only on weekends and some holidays, she said confidently. Wait, you're the one cheating, not me, I protested, feeling the situation slipping out of my control. This is a no-fault state, Tom. The court doesn't care about infidelity. Ask a lawyer if you don't believe me, she said with such certainty that it chilled me inside. I don't want this to happen, Tom. I want our family to stay together. This affair shouldn't concern us. Just think about it, she said, kissing me on the head before heading to bed. I was left consumed by anger, loss, sadness, and confusion. The fact that Carol could cheat on me seemed unthinkable, and the idea that she proposed continuing the affair was beyond my comprehension. Finally, I went to bed, falling asleep almost instantly, exhausted by the night's events. Waking up the next morning at 6 a.m., I felt completely drained. I mechanically took a shower, shaved, and dressed, wild thoughts racing through my mind. Run away, wake Carol, kidnap Susan, or never get out of bed again. But looking at Susan, sleeping in her new bed, I knew I had to stay strong for her. Doing something foolish would mean losing her. I had to put her interests first. Doing my morning chores, I went to the office, working on autopilot. Lou met me with a sympathetic look. Tom, is everything all right? He asked, noticing my grim expression. When I didn't answer, he came in and closed the door. What happened? He asked. I told him everything about the previous night. Lou listened, shocked by Carol's attitude. Damn, he said. She expects you to tolerate her cheating? He looked me in the eye. Carol has changed. You can't rely on her anymore. You need to take care of yourself. The first thing you need to do is consult a lawyer. You need to know your rights. Lou, I replied, I don't know any lawyers in Birmingham. That's where I can help, he said, smiling. My classmate is a lawyer here. I'll call him. A moment later, he returned with a piece of paper. You have a meeting at 1 p.m. today. Here's his name and address. Thanks, Lou. This gives me something to do, I said, grateful for his help. No problem. After the meeting, come back and tell me what he said, he added. The meeting with the lawyer was discouraging. He listened to my story and then explained that in a no-fault state, the court doesn't consider who did what, only decides property division and child welfare. What does that mean for me? I asked. In short, Carol will get custody unless she's deemed unfit. You'll get visitation rights, but Susan will live with her. You'll pay child support even if Carol earns more, he said unemotionally. And the house? I asked, hoping for good news. It's joint property, but the court prefers children to stay in the home. Carol will likely own it until Susan turns 18. Then it can be sold, and the proceeds divided, he explained. But what if she moves to another city? I protested. Then the house can be sold. Until then, it stays put, he clarified. I shook my head, feeling devastated. Damn, she knew exactly what she was talking about. I'm in a hopeless situation, I muttered. So after the lawyer explained to me that my chances in court were practically nil, I was utterly crushed. Lou, seeing my state, offered his help and told me about his plan. He said he could use his media connections and advertising expertise to create a scandal around Carol and Ted, which would help me fight for custody of Susan. We started by installing a hidden camera in the makeup room at the station to get evidence of their affair. Lou helped me set up the cameras and hide them to record everything that happened. The next evening, we got the footage we needed, Carol and Ted in a compromising situation. The next day, I called Lou and told him we had what we needed. Lou eagerly got to work. He took the footage and began editing the video, adding commentary to effectively expose them to the public. I understood it was risky, but I had no other choice. When the video was ready, Lou posted it on YouTube and sent links to all his journalist contacts. The result was swift. Within hours, the video went viral, gaining thousands of views and comments. Everyone was discussing the scandal involving Carol and Ted. TV stations began their investigations, and competing media quickly picked up the news. Soon after the video went viral, Don Sanchez, the news director, learned of the situation. He was furious. Carol and Ted were called in and immediately fired. Don told them that their behavior was unacceptable and ruined the station's reputation. Carol tried to justify herself, but it was too late. Their contracts were terminated, and they were forced to leave the station. Meanwhile, I decided to file for divorce. My lawyer prepared all the necessary documents, and I handed them to Carol. She was shocked and tried to convince me to change my mind, but I was adamant. Divorce was the only way out of this situation. In court, I presented all the evidence, including the viral video. The judge considered this in making his decision, and I managed to get custody of Susan. Carol was granted visitation rights, but could no longer claim primary custody. After the divorce, I decided that Susan and I needed a fresh start. I quit my job and moved to another city, away from everything that reminded me of Carol and her betrayal. I found a new job at an advertising agency and started building a new life for us. Carol tried to rebuild her career, but the scandal ruined her reputation. She could no longer work at major media companies and had to take a job teaching journalism at a small college. She still saw Susan, but our relationship remained strained. A few months passed, and I started dating a woman named Missy. She was kind, caring, and immediately loved Susan. We quickly hit it off, and our relationship began to blossom. Susan also grew to love Missy, and soon she started calling her mom. Over time, I realized that our happiness was possible only because of the support of friends and family. Lou and his wife Eddie were always there, helping us cope with difficulties. We became one big family, and I was grateful to have such people in my life. Missy and I got married and started a new chapter in our lives. I no longer looked back or regretted the past. I knew I had done everything possible to protect my daughter and give her a happy childhood. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it serves as a lesson to someone and helps them cope with difficulties in life. Cherish your loved ones and never give up, even when it seems there is no way out. Let me know if you need anything else. Bye-bye.